Hi, this is Gerard Dalemans from Bowie, Maryland, and I play at Enterprise Golf Course. This is Golf Smarter, number 972.
I tell people all the time, the LIV model, if you've ever been to one, and I've been to several, and they're really fun. They're exciting. The players are excited to be there, and it's a team concept. Team golf works. But had the tour partner with them from the beginning, and let's say, let's do this. Let's have an Irish team. Let's have a South African team. Let's have a Mexican team, a Spanish team, a South Korean team, a Canadian team. We'll have a Texas team. We'll have a Sea Island team. We'll have a California team. And 14 times a year, we will get together, and this is kind of like a Ryder Cup instead of it being USA and Europe. And all these teams from around the world are coming to play the Irish team. How many T-shirts and hats of that Irish jerseys would you sell? And no one understands the licensing concept behind this. I think $5.7 billion is spent every year in college football licensed merchandise. There's never been a licensing opportunity in golf until this. There is with the Ryder Cup, which happens every 2 years. Well, think about having an event at Bethpage Black, and it's the Americans, Texas, Sea Island, Scottsdale versus Ireland. Here comes Rory McIlroy and Sean. Take the best players from those countries like we do at the Ryder Cup and do it 14 times a year.
Is the PGA Tour doomed? We're going to get some controversial insights from golf agent Mac Barnhardt.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Mac.
Hey, thanks for letting me come on, Fred.
It's good to meet you. It's good to have you on. This is really special because I've never had the opportunity to speak to a golf agent before. And so now that I've let that out of the bag, explain to me what you do.
Well, after me, you probably won't have one on again. So
I'll be the judge of
our
that.
business as an agent is a little different than what a baseball or football or basketball agent is. They sign a kid from college and then they sell him to a team. That's their job. There may be a few other deals they may do, but that's pretty much their job. Golfers, they'll have a high school coach, they'll have a college coach. When they turn pro, they are on their own. They have no peers, nobody. So we're agents in the sense that we are trying to get deals and create some revenue. We're also the manager. We're the GM. We're the ones that manage the caddies, the teachers, their trainers, their psychologists, all trying to pull together for them. Most of these kids never had a job, much less run a company. And so now they've got 3, 4, 5 employees. They have to have an accountant. So we're the guys that kind of oversee all those things. We do all their logistics. So their hotels, flights, cars, whatever they need, we handle that. And pretty much in our company, we do everything but hit balls for them when it comes to golf. So it's a little different than just being that, suit and tie agent going in and, trying to negotiate these deals. There's a lot that goes into it. And from 34 years of this, the stuff that we do there has more effect on their performance than anything else that we do.
I would think so. It's interesting because for the years that I've been doing this, I've frequently talked about how a professional golfer is their own team. We don't talk a lot about what happens on the tour. We may talk about the people on the tour, but we don't talk about what happens on the tour last week and what's going to be next week and what the gambling odds. That's not what we talk about on this show. It's how do we become better golfers, smarter golfers. Uh-huh. And I've talked a lot about how, professional golfer is it. He's got to do all of it and manage it himself. So I've always been fascinated by that concept where, like you said, baseball, football, basketball, these agents got to come in and make promises to these kids and their parents of what they're going to be able to deliver and try to become their best friend, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, those agents have to look these kids in the eye, look the parents in the eye, and feel comfortable about lying to them in like making promises that, I'm going to be your number one guy. I'm there for you all the time until the next phenom comes along, and then they've got to move on and grow their business and get other agents. Oh, well, he's going to be working with your son from now on, and I'm going to be moving,
Happens all the time.
But that's not how it works for golf. So it's fascinating to know that you're not coming in to say, we're negotiating a deal with the PGA or LIV for you.
No,
that's not what you do.
No. Well, I mean, on the contrary, these agents that are having to quote lie to these guys, they may have a client for 4, 6, 8 years. I have clients for 30 years.
Wow.
So I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. These are people that we are close to. I mean, as close as my family. And so you can imagine we have a rule that, I've had to let a couple of clients go because I see their name pop up on my phone and my stomach turns, and life's too short. And when you've got 50 clients or 53 clients, this is a partnership with us. They make bogeys, we make bogeys. So, I always tell people I won't sign a client if I can't take him to dinner. And why? I said, well, I want to see how he treats people that serve him, because I'm going to be serving him. And I want to see his reactions and how he does things, because I don't want to be locked into a relationship. It isn't about the money and just to go whoever can make you the money. These are people that, you're going to have to go sell them, market them. You got to believe in them and who they are and what they are. And you can bypass a lot of problems in the recruiting process, but not signing those people that are just going to be really pains in the arse. And so it's a little different. It's not a transactional thing. Now, there is groups in my business that they'll come in and say, look, I'm the best in the business and I'm going to be your main guy. And I tell these people, there's no way he's going to be your main guy. If you've got this player, they'll say that, they get them under contract and they ship them off. And that happens a lot. Now, we're a lot different. There's a bunch of us in the business. You may have somebody that you may want to be your guy, and you can have it. Somebody wants me to be their guy, they can call me all the time. But in reality, you're going to see a lot of different of us out, because there's a lot of golf being played, and we're all around the world. So that's the different part. There are people that get in our business that think it's like that. I'm going to woo this guy, and I'm going to convince him to sign with me. We're going to see a kid on Tuesday in Florida, and they're like, "What do we tell him?" I said, "We tell him who we are and how we do our jobs. We want him to pick us because he knows who we are. We don't want to try to tell him what he wants to hear to sign him, because then you're in that whole different dynamic of the relationship. And there are no promises in golf. There people might make them. I can't tell you what you're going to do. So It's a little different.
Winning on the tour once is a big deal for a player's career.
Well, it's amazing. If you want to, there's a lot of one-time winners. And then that list of 2-time winners goes down, and then 5-time winners go down. And people ask me, what is that? And I said, well, I've got a guy that we use this terminology called talent minus distractions equals performance. And distractions are a lot. I got a 22-year-old kid that's got not a care in the world. And then he gets married. Then he has a kid. Then he has another kid. Then he wins a golf tournament. Now he's got new friends. Now he's got more media requests. Now he's got more contracts. So all these logos you see on these players, that's not just the logo. That's time. So all those logos may have 2, 3, 4 days of time. So now they're distracted. They're not practicing like that 22-year-old freewheeling. Then they buy, a couple $1 million house, get them a $10,000 a month mortgage. So there's just all these things that happen. They win that first time. But really the main thing, and I just had this conversation with a kid, is expectations will destroy you faster than anything you have. And we try to convince them that when you win a golf tournament, it doesn't mean the next week you play, you're going to play well. And I think, Davis Love was a client for a long time, and Davis won 21 times in his career. Now that's pretty amazing, right?
That's a phenomenal career.
But I think he's played 761 tournaments. So he's lost 740 times.
Wow.
Now losing has got, and that's the other thing, amateur kids are used to winning. Winning out here is creating a living, and it's not necessarily, winning, getting trophies, but there's a special talent or a frame of mind to do what Tiger and Phil and these guys do, that they can go win and they don't let the expectation bother them. You'll see a lot of guys. I don't want to go. Max Homa is a guy that has shown up and really great player, and he's not playing well right now. And I don't know him. I don't represent him. But I imagine the expectation that now every time he hits a shot, it has to be the best shot he's ever hit. It drove Ian Baker Finch off the tour when he won the British Open a long time ago. So we try to keep the expectations. And once that tournament's over, you're back to square one. And you react to what you're going to do now. You can't all of a sudden win one tournament and think, well, I should win all. And I have those kids go, I'm not playing well. I'm like, you're playing like you always do. Like, you're doing just fine. But
it's the competition.
We can keep people playing. But that list that goes from one winner to twice winning 5 times and then to get to 10 times, I mean, it's a miracle.
It is. When you talk about going out to dinner with them to see how they treat people, early on, we did an episode a long time ago where we were talking about doing business on the golf course.
Yeah.
And the advice was never do business on the golf course. What you do on the golf course is learn if you want to do business with that person.
Well put. Well put. Yeah, your life can be a lot better if every client you sign, you believe in, you have a trust in them, they have a trust in you. There's not this, what have you done for me lately type attitude. I mean, unfortunately, for everybody in my business, and there may be some guys tell you I'm lying, how well you play determines directly how much money you make on and off the golf course. When Davis Love or Justin Leonard won a major championship, I just had to be by the phone. It was going to ring. And if you've got a guy shooting 75 every week, I don't care who you call, you're not going to sell them. So most of the deals that are done are incoming. There's not someone out selling. There's not somebody going door to door in New York City. Is that you have relationships with these companies. I'm always calling companies and saying, I've signed these 2 players out of college. Bill, I know you're not looking for anyone, but these 2 guys, I want you to know who they are. So when they show up and I call you, you'll know who I'm talking about. So I spend a lot of time sharing to companies, my clients, without selling them. I just want you to know, because I build relationships with, American Express, whoever. I always like to just introduce them to my new guys. I said, keep an eye on these kids and watch and see if he fits what you want, because it's not, I see guys on tour. There's a player out there that's he's got an endorsement deal with a company. And I promise you, he doesn't have how to use the product. And I don't like unauthentic endorsements because they're going to go spend time at these companies. In other words, so Bass Pro Shops, incredible company. I'm not going to put someone that doesn't hunt and fish with Bass Pro Shops because their appearances are going to be at hunting shows or fishing shows. And I want them to be excited about going and doing it. The guys that love finance, I love getting them a deal with the finance company. So when they go to an outing, they're involved in the element that they get to enjoy instead of it being, I've got to go do this, because those people become their family too. And I want them, if I say, look, you got to go to LA and spend a day with company ABC, I want them to go, yeah, man, I can't wait to see those guys. And that's a much better than, are you kidding me? I got to go all the way out there and do that for a day or something. So a lot of that goes into what we try to do to make their lives on and off the golf course a lot more pleasurable.
It's so funny. A minute ago, you were talking about taking a client out. He says, I'm going to take you to LA and we're going to meet company ABC. Uh-huh. And you feel like you had air quotes around ABC as if it's a random company. But if you go to LA and you're meeting with ABC, that's probably a network.
Exactly. Right.
Like, oops, XXX. Okay. So, or X would be another bad example as well. So How do you weed out the sponsors? How do you determine, and I understand it's like you want them to be able to know the product. Like I have a client that I do production for called Protivity. Uh-huh. And I've been with them like 14 years or something. And Protivity, you can now see it on Matt Fitzpatrick's shirt.
Yep.
Now it's a good fit. They're an international consulting firm and they're really into spreadsheets and, the numbers and stuff. Well, Matt Fitzpatrick is kind of perfect for that because he's such a geek on his numbers. Mm-hmm. So matching them up with a product or with a sponsor that they understand the product is really what you have to do.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. Lucas Glover is a client and I'm older than him, but I was having a problem with sleep apnea. And Lucas said, and I said, but I don't have time to do a sleep test. And Lucas says, hey, there's a company I use because Lucas uses a sleep apnea machine, has for several years. And they do a test. You can do it anywhere. They'll send you the test. It downloads. They'll tell you the diagnosis. They can then prescribe, send the product. So I do this. I go and I'm on the road. I do it. They come back. You got sleep apnea. I knew I did. They say, here's what you got to do. I talk to a doctor. They send me the machine to my next tour stop in the hotel. I use it for the first night. Best night of sleep I've had in 30 years. So I call that company and go, hey, why are you not advertising in golf? Why are you not involved with this? Because this is, and honestly, we're trying to work that deal out. And it's not me trying to make money, but I look at a company that says, I didn't know about this. How many people travel that don't have the time to go to a sleep apnea or sleep in a lab? You guys should be out here selling this thing. And we're trying to work on that. But a lot of that kind of stuff, I meet people all the time with companies and they think it's $5 million to sponsor a player. And I'm like, oh gosh, no, you can get tons less than that. So I'm always trying to clarify with companies what's available and what can they get out of it. We don't use much ROI. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to tell you what seeing a logo on somebody's shirt is. But we do know that in golf, the demographic watching golf has more spendable income. And so having your logo in golf does raise the company's value because, this is a higher demographic. And that's not mean, but I bet the per capita of earnings of a golf fan is more than a wrestling fan. And it's not .com. So a lot of the companies you see, they just get it raises the awareness to probably a demographic that can afford it. And that's why you see Rolex, you see American Express, you see MasterCard. So, but a lot of that, and again, after 30 some years, I probably know everyone in these companies,
Sure.
Workday. And most of these executives, the CEOs, the reason they're in golf is they love golf.
They love golf. They play golf. Yeah, that's with Protiviti as well. And when Matt Fitzpatrick won a major, that Monday morning, they reported back to me that Protiviti's web traffic was massively increased.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now with Google, you sit with your phone
Right.
and you're sitting there and you see that what company is that? You punch it in and that you never know. But that's why golf has been so popular amongst those companies. And I've told people, 4 minutes, you're at the Masters and you get 4 minutes of time with that logo. You've paid for 10 years of that deal, just like that. And so, but a lot of it is education. But the great thing about it is, like if you go to Augusta, if you go to the US Open, if you go to Pebble Beach, all those CEOs, they're all right there. And you can just walk up and talk to them. And I can't tell you how many times I've brought a player over to introduce them to a CEO. And you see these CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies, and they look like a 12-year-old. And I had one CEO ask for an autograph, which blew me away. And it was the sweetest thing I've ever seen. And I thought, here's a guy making more money he can ever spend. He's this powerful guy, and he wants this guy's autograph. I said, that makes golf cool. It does make it cool.
It does make it cool, but it doesn't ensure the financial future of the game. And It seems as if the prize money continues to go up, but may not translate to viewers on TV, which is probably where most of the revenue comes from.
Right.
Okay. So walk me through what's going to happen. How are they going to make this work where players can continue to generate a tremendous amount of income from winning if the league, when I'll call it the PGA at this point, PGA Tour, may not be able to afford to do this?
Yeah, we've had quite a disruption the last 3-4 years with the thing called LIV Golf, which was a new team concept.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. And the premise behind it obviously is different than the PGA Tour. So I just walked somebody through this about where we are on the money. So pre-1995, the tour was probably growing at a 5 to 7% rate. They had Jack Nicklaus and Arnold, and then they had Greg Norman. John Daly came in. What a show that was. But it was creeping, growing. It wasn't. In 1992, I had a client keep his tour card making $92,000 for the year.
Wow.
And then this kid named Tiger Woods showed up. And that wasn't a draft pick by the tour. The tour didn't hold a big draft and draft Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods showed up, played in a tournament, and obviously between him and Mr. Nicklaus, two best players ever. And he brought in an excitement to the tour that was never seen before. So here's this little 5 or 7% uptick each year of growth. And it grew 5,000%. Tiger shows up, and the Tiger effect was, contracts for all of them, like off-course contracts, they would go up in tenfold. I didn't get any better at negotiating. He raised the market level.
Right.
So they got on this.
He brought eyeballs to the game.
Yeah. And like excitement it's never seen. No one had seen this kind of game. And so this went on for a long time, and they rode this. The TV contracts went up, and everyone benefited from Tiger. If anybody thinks the reason they make a lot of money is for any other reason Tiger Woods, they're wrong. It was Tiger. And Tiger made me a lot of money. Just because my contracts for my clients went up. So that just kept going on. And so through time, you kind of get, and I have two Navy SEALs that train my players in performance, and they tell me that success creates blind spots. And the PGA Tour had a success beyond imagine, not because they did anything different. They didn't come up with a new way to show golf. They did Tiger. And this went on for a long time, and the TVs all wrote it. Well, that Tiger effect's gone. Tiger's aged, and for some reason, someone thought that growth of the game that Tiger gave was just there because of golf. And so when this LIV thing came in and started a whole new process and raised the numbers, the PGA Tour somehow thought, well, that they're doing the right thing. We've got to pay more money. And they really weren't looking at the bottom line. They weren't looking at their product. They weren't looking at, is the product better than it was? They just look at, we got to pay guys more money. And they matched. And they can't afford it. It's unsustainable. I think Scotty Scheffler made $62 million playing golf this year. That's wonderful. Scotty, great kid. But it's not sustainable to the marketplace, and the viewership is down. Is it down because Tiger's not playing? Yeah, some. Is it down because some of the top players went to LIV? Some. Is it because there's new streaming lines? The viewership has changed how people watch golf. There's a lot of factors, but it's not sustainable as it is. And they're making moves to this day, and not one of those moves has been around producing a better product for the viewer. There's a group called the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you know who they are. It's a baseball team. I've
been following them for 4 years.
And
I love them.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Pro baseball did not attack them and say, you're selling out stadiums for more money than we can sell a professional team. That was a different element. It's a different game. LIV is a different game. There's a shotgun start. There's music playing. It's a little more relaxed. It's a really fun, incredible fun event. And they want 14 of them a year. The PGA Tour reacted like this was just an attack on them, when they probably should have figured a way to partner, which is what they're doing, right? And I think you're probably in I don't think in the short future, you're going to see an announcement that there's going to be some type of an agreement, partnership. A year and a half ago, there was a framework agreement announced, and I think they're finally getting close. This is what I'm hearing. I don't have direct knowledge. But yeah, the game, the market that you pay these players to let someone else just dictate all of a sudden how much they're going to pay them without looking at your bottom line, at looking at your product, at looking at your true revenues, just to protect the player. Obviously it was a mistake. And if it hadn't, they wouldn't have had to take the recent $1.5 billion injection, and they wouldn't be going after another $2 billion from PIF. My concern, just throwing money at an issue doesn't solve it. And what they've done is they've constricted the play. They've just announced they're going to go from 125 exempt players to 100 exempt players. Well, every sport in the world is expanding. F1's adding teams. College football went from 4 playoff teams to 12. And now the tour is constricting. And the membership of the tour is who the people that run the tour are running it for. And they're essentially laying golfers off. They're taking away opportunities. And there's some unintended consequences to that. As I said, the tour does not draft players. They show up. And if I was running a product, I'd want as many golfers I could get out there on that course, hoping that a next superstar was going to show up and give my ratings a boost and might give my product, make my product better. And I think they're headed, I mean, I hate to be that way. And I'm friends with those guys. They're going exactly the opposite way. They should be expanding opportunities. Now, maybe the money won't be as much. So maybe Scotty only makes $40 million for a year. But let's face it. I mean, there's families having a hard time buying groceries with the inflation. You're going to turn fans off if you've got these kids out there playing golf and they're just wanting more money. I mean, and money's not going to make you happy. I guess you got to get it to find out. But I think that it's unsustainable, the model they have now. And even if they get more investment, if they don't look at their product as a whole, it's been the same product for a long, long time. If they don't look at the announcers, if they don't look at the entire thing, and that's what I love about the Savannah Bananas. If you ask that guy, they built their product for what the fan wanted, not what they wanted to give them. Steve Jobs one time said, I didn't build products that we were capable of building. I built products that the public wanted. And I think,
but he also said that they don't know what they want. So I'm not going to do focus groups.
There you go. Well, I'll tell them. Yeah. And I just think that's the mistakes. And this sounds like I'm not being against them. I mean, the PGA Tour has been they've given away billions of dollars in charitable. I mean, and that's another thing, forever it was about giving back. I mean, they bragged about how many billions of dollars they give to charity. This happens and they say, never mind, we're going to go for profit. We're a for-profit company now, and you're going to pay us for our players and you're going to do these things. And they couldn't be doing the opposite of what I think they need to do. Again, they're running it. Maybe they're smarter than me, but I'm out there with the fan. I'm walking in the ropes. I hear what people say. I hear people tell me they will not watch golf anymore, whether it's LIV or PGA Tour, because of the greed and what they perceive these players. I got to tell you, my players I've never had one say, I'm not playing in that tournament because the purse is not enough. These guys play golf for a living. And if they don't look at it like that. They play golf courses. They play tournaments that they may be better at playing that course. They've had good success at. I've never had one to this day ask me, what's the purse of that event before I commit to it, ever.
Many times I have asked guests who will rag about what's going on in the tour, what's going on in sports, what's going on anywhere or with instruction. But I've never been able to talk to somebody who's in the trenches in the way that you are in the business of golf, which is very different than the sport of golf.
Perfect. Yep.
And I've said to them, okay, I just got news. You've been made commissioner of the PGA.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to put it out to somebody who's in the business of golf, Mac.
Okay.
You've just been made the commissioner of the PGA. What's the first thing you're going to do?
Well, I'm gonna do some research and find out what really our value is. I'm going to find out what our product is worth. I can't keep this going if I'm going to pay the players more than we can operate. And I'm sorry if you need to go somewhere else and make more money, but our product, the product that we have, is what we've been doing forever. And if you decide you need to go somewhere else and play for more money, as other baseball teams, as Soto has said, every team's available, then you got to go do it. But our product is this. We're 501c6. We're a charitable organization. Our job is to provide opportunities for our members. So yeah, we might be playing for a little bit of money, but we're going to be here for a long time doing it. I would create the Korn Ferry Tour, which is the developmental tour. And this is one of the problems I have with the tour. People don't realize that the average age of the PGA Tour player is younger than the average age of their developmental tour.
Wow.
That's the problem. Well, you've got a lot of guys, former champions in their 40s that are playing to prepare for the senior tour. But your pipeline of talent comes from that developmental tour. First thing I would do, I'd do away with all sponsor exemptions, all medical exemptions. I would have a qualifier of 20 to 24 people a week for the Korn Ferry Tour, so that somewhere this next superstar might find his way into the ecosystem and play his way on the tour, and then I can go sell them to the next TV deal. I would create more opportunities for the players. There's more demand for professional golf now than there's ever been. The tour just went from 125 exempt players to 100. They laid off 25 players. I would go to 135. These guys need time to develop. It takes 3 to 4 years to develop into a player on tour when you get out of college. It's not overnight. The average career length of a PGA Tour player is 2.7 years. When they go from 125 to 100, they may have just reduced that to 2 years. Well, 2 years may not be enough to find your next talent line. I mean, I'll give you Zach Johnson, who lives on this island. He's won 2 majors, the British Open and the Masters. He played for 4 or 5 years on a thing called the Hooters Tour. No one's ever heard of it. But that's where he learned how to compete. It takes a long time to compete at that level. There's so many new things you've got to learn. I mean, college kids coming out of college now, they fly private to tournaments. They all brag about their practice facilities. You should see these things. They're Taj Mahal practice facilities. Everything is laid out for them. They got teammates. They got peers. It's just a wonderful environment. They turn pro. They're in a hotel room, and not a nice one, driving a Tahoe, playing in some tournament that there's a G Pro event. They pay $1,000 to play in it and to earn $15,000 if they win. But they need that experience. So if I'm the tour, I build 3 levels of tour. I build AA ball, AAA ball, and the tour. Underneath the Korn Ferry, I would have almost a place for college kids to come and start playing professional golf. And then they could work to the Korn Ferry, and then the Korn Ferry to the tour. I'm not saying that people don't want to see the best players play every week against each other. But let's face it, the 4 majors are what build legacies. That's what builds legacies. The other places is where they cut their chops, they learn how to play under pressure, and they earn a living. I think the PGA Tour started thinking, because of Tiger, that, well, we kind of control golf. We should have the best product. And they should have a good product. But I would probably, before I would lay off 25 tour players, I'd probably lay off a lot of people at PGA Tour headquarters. And I'm sure that gets out. People are going to say I'm wrong, and I could be wrong. I'm not. My opinion, though, from where I am, knowing what I've seen in 34 years, the tour has never gone out and recruited a player. They show up, and then if they show up well, they sell them, and they sell them until they're not sellable. And I had a client, Boo Weekley, in I think 2008 Ryder Cup. People had never heard of Boo, and after that, Boo was probably one of their biggest stars for like 3 or 4 years. I mean, commercials everywhere, right? But it doesn't last. This is a tough game. Very few guys have careers like Davis Love or Lucas Glover or Phil Mickelson. It's just, there's a lot of names you start throwing out and you go like, what happened to that guy? Well, golf happened. It's a hard sport. You got injuries. I mean, you got a lot of things that goes wrong. And I mean, there's a million of them. If you ever say what happened to those guys, there's a guy named Hunter Mahan. Remember how good this kid was? I mean, golly. And where is he? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what these careers are. They're not long careers. So if I have a product that I know the career average is short, and I know that I'm selling the talent that is playing to the sponsors and to the TV deal, I'm trying to get as wide a net cast as possible for the best possible talent. I wouldn't say, well, we're just going to go with this particular talent. And that's what I do as PGA Tour commissioner. I would create more opportunities for my members, not less.
Well, the thing that's so fascinating about golf versus other sports is, you rarely in golf have a dominant player, right? Yep. It's parity. Among all sports, parity is what golf is all about, because it's so hard to win more than once. That's why the Tiger effect was so huge for such a long time, to the point where golf courses were being built like crazy during the Tiger effect. Yeah. And then when he started injuring himself and getting bad press, all of a sudden there's no courses being built anymore. Exactly. And courses are closing all over the place. And then COVID happens. Yep. And Topgolf happens, and people are flocking out to go do these things. Now, are more people playing golf because of Topgolf, or are they just goofing around with golf because of Topgolf?
Yeah, well, that's a phenomenon. We've said the 2 biggest things that happened to golf in the last 30 years were Tiger Woods and COVID. Mm-hmm. COVID took participation of golf to a level that, it was all of a sudden okay not to be working from home and getting around to golfing every day. And it stayed. I mean, this island I live on the influx of people here and the people you see every day playing golf. I think participation in the game is at an all-time high. Women's golf. I mean, I watch women's golf as much. Honestly, for people like us, more relatable, how far they hit it, how they play, stuff like that. But so that's the tough problem is maybe people aren't watching golf as much because they're out playing it. No one skips watching the Braves play to go play baseball. So I would want to know why viewership is down. Is it the product? Is it the viewership has changed? But that's what I would be looking at as the PGA Tour is our product needs to be as good as it can be.
And golf on television is now better than it's ever been because of things like Top Tracer, where you can follow the ball instead of just seeing this little white dot flying through the air and not knowing what it's doing.
Right. Yep.
Things like that. So golf television is great. I would much rather watch a tournament on TV than be there because it's so fast paced. There's so much going on. And you can really follow what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. We were talking about the Ryder Cup the other day, and the Ryder Cup's going to be in New York. Mm-hmm. And there was some throwback that I think one day ticket for the Ryder Cup is $750. And people were, that's outrageous. And I said, well, it's $1,400 to go stand at Yankee Stadium to watch the World Series. This is the biggest event in golf. I mean, that and the Masters are the two biggest events in golf.
Sure. And
there was some throwback. And I said, well, if you've ever been to a Ryder Cup and you really want to watch it on TV because you're going to see every shot. You go to a Ryder Cup, man, the excitement of being there, I tell everybody, you got to go once. I mean, you got to feel, I've got the opportunity with Davis being captain twice and being inside the ropes, and you can't measure the energy. You're seeing guys that are millionaires that are so good at golf, nervous, shaking, like you see nervous. Not many things. I think, the majors and the Ryder Cup are the only things that can evoke nervousness in these powerhouses that we watch. These guys, I mean, it's serious, right? So in the sense that the viewership and the game growing and all the opportunities, the only thing, like to say the TV product, there's too many commercials. I mean, show some golf. The other thing I have a complaint with is I want to see real golf because you see the three guys winning that week and they are on fire, right?
Right.
There's a guy shooting 74. I want to see those shots too. Show me golf.
Too.
I don't need to see Scotty Scheffler tap in a 3-footer for par unless he misses it or something, but he ain't going to. I want to go see the guy that just shanked one over in the woods. I mean,
but that's like watching our game. Do we really want to see what we do out there?
Feel better. I mean, these guys are the best in the world, and they top a ball, they shank balls, they miss 2-footers.
They make mistakes too.
And I always tell people how hard this game is, and I'm going to quote a stat, but from 125 yards, and I'm going to, the average distance putt a tour player has for the year. I mean, every player for every 125-yard shot. And I have people go 9 feet, 7 feet. It's 24 feet. So I play with guys, and we're 125 yards, and they hit it 30 feet, and they lose their mind. And I'm like, dude, that's incredible what you just did. Well, on TV, this guy hit it 3 feet in a row. I said, that's the guy winning. He's unconscious. He doesn't know it. I said, in 2 weeks, go watch him. He's not going to do that. But I would like to see that kind of, and again, this is going to sound bad, but there's a guy named John McGinnis, and nobody's ever heard of this guy. And he's probably one of the smartest guys in the game, but he played the tour. He's a really good player. I would have him in the 18th tower. This is the funniest guy. He knows the game. He's played the game. But yet they take guys because of their record, their playing record. He's won 3 majors. Let's let him talk about it. Well, no offense, but just being great at golf does not make you fun to listen to. And I've always said,
we're seeing that in football too.
Yeah. You see the thing with the Eli Manning and those guys and watch, that's fun, right? It's just playing. But that's what I keep saying is that they got into this paradigm of like, okay, well, our announcer needs to be a major winner or he's got to be this. They don't look and say, we've got a guy that played the tour that you put him in that booth, you will just cackle. You'll just laugh. And he's not being mean. It's like Gary McCord or what's
Flaherty.
David Flaherty.
Right.
I can see what shot was hit. You don't need to tell me what happened. Tell me something funny about it. Tour. Tell me, and that's
entertain me.
I want the European Tour in the morning. I love to watch because those announcers, that was a dreadful shot. That was horrible, because it was. And these other guys, they'll say, well, it slipped. Obviously, you had But again, there's the commentary needs to improve. And I'm getting this not because of me. Just like you, I'm being in the business. You wouldn't believe how many people want to talk golf to me. And they will tell me, man, there's got to be less commercials. Man, they got to show more golf. They got to quit. So all this I've done is not just me coming up with an idea. These are the golfer general public that I'm around all the time, sitting around at a bar, listening. And I think the PGA Tour should listen more.
You talked about how COVID was so good. There were two industries that really succeeded and thrived during COVID, and that was golf and podcasting.
Yeah,
I was on an island pretty much by myself for many years before COVID, and then when COVID came out, all of a sudden there are so many golf podcasts out there, and it's true. It's amazing what's going on and what people are saying about it and the interest in it. And you're right, in so many different ways. I'm curious to know your thought on why there is such a negative attitude towards LIV. Do you think it was because of financial or political? A lot of people are calling it sport washing, that they kind of muscled their way in and took some of the big names, which, I really have a difficult time when people complain about athletes getting paid a lot of money, because it's like, well, should the money just be in the hands of the owners of the team? I mean, these guys are the product, and sure, they should get paid because everybody's making money here. But with something like this, LIV came in and said, we're going to throw all this money at these guys who, listen, you're playing to earn a living. Well, here, we're going to guarantee your living now. Mm-hmm. And I may be misinterpreting this, but we're going to guarantee your grandchildren are never going to have to work. And it's like, how do you walk away from that going, yeah, I don't want to do that because I just want to win a major. Mm-hmm. So what was it that was done wrong? What if you had a redo, if you had a mulligan on starting LIV again, how do you do it so it doesn't upset so many people and you make it work?
The simplest question in the world. People don't realize that for years, this has been around for a while. This concept has been around in the marketplace 5-6 years. And what people may not know is that this group went to the PGA Tour and tried to have a meeting and say, listen, we want into the ecosystem. We've got money. Here's what we're wanting to do. How can we work together? And some people say the tour didn't take it. I said, the tour didn't take a meeting. They never took a meeting. So you want the ultimate do-over? Take the meeting. I always tell people, if you've ever read the book Art of War, before you compete, before you attack your enemy, you should know who they are. And this was serious stuff. So that started it. That not taking the meeting was the original sin. That's where it all happened. Second thing is they didn't know it was true. They didn't know it was real. They, for some reason, stuck their head in the sand and said, well, this is never going to happen. These players are not going to do that.
The PGA said that?
Yeah. I think there's I think an on-air comment that said somehow the players won't leave because they know what we'll do to them. And so that happened. And then this next thing was, instead of once it happening, calling them up and say, hey, guys, this is real. Let's find a way. This is 14 events a year now. This is not 50 events. And it's a new product. It's different. And I'll get to it in a second, how this product could really work. But their reaction to the tour, the playbook was, well, we're going to run down the players that leave. We will publicly admonish them and tell them they're kicked out and they're banished. And those are the guys that you were selling for your TV product. Remember, we go back to that. Like, these are the guys that you didn't build this guy. These were your products. Bryce DeChambeau, Brooks, DJ, Sergio. These were personalities. And so that started. And then they just said, you know what? We'll go after the source of the money. This is Saudi Arabia. Okay, we'll go after them because in 9/11, Saudi Arabia was behind 9/11. Well, I don't think so. I don't think we'd have bombed them if they were behind it. I think there were Saudi Arabian citizens on it that were radical, but that was the tour essentially mined their own regress. In other words, they were the ones that turned it into such a negative thing. They're the ones that said this is blood money. I remember this. And they put all the rhetoric out there. They hired protesters to come protest from 9/11. Jay went on, I think he went on it was Jim Nantz, and said, one thing is you'll never have to be embarrassed to play for us. So they did it to themselves. They're the ones that made it such a dirty thing, because Saudi Arabia is not just an ally of America. They're married to us. I forget how much they just spent with Raytheon, they're partners with America. Aramco is the Arabian American oil company. So the tour did it to themselves. And so they're the ones that turned the public tide. I have people that come to me. I have one player, Andy Ogletree, that plays on LIV. I didn't sell him to him. He was never a tour member. He earned his way. And I have people telling me, enjoying that blood. I've had people here go, you're enjoying that blood money. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? So they're the ones that created it all. And that's why it's so shocking. A year and a half ago, they make an announcement, well, we've got a framework agreement now to partner with them. Well, what's going to be the backlash when they partner with them? The same people that you banished from the tour for taking their money, now you're going to take their money because you made a lot of bad decisions. So, yeah, the do-over was take the meeting. And it goes back to their success created blind spots. And so let's go to the LIV model. I tell people all the time, the LIV model, if you've ever been to one, and I've been to several, and they're really fun. They're exciting. The players are excited to be there. And it's a team concept. Team golf works. But where the team golf, I think they made a mistake, is had the tour partner with them from the beginning. And let's say, let's do this. Let's have an Irish team. Let's have a South African team. Let's have a Mexican team, a Spanish team, a South Korean team, a Canadian team. We'll have a Texas team. We'll have a Sea Island team. We'll have a California team. And 14 times a year, we will get together. And this is kind of like a Ryder Cup instead of it being USA and Europe. Now we're going to show up at a Dare Matter, and all these teams from around the world are coming to play the Irish team. How many T-shirts and hats of that Irish jerseys would you sell? And no one understands the licensing concept behind this. I think $5.7 billion is spent every year in college football licensed merchandise. Maybe it's 4.7. It's a lot. There's never been a licensing opportunity in golf until this. There is with the Ryder Cup, which happens every 2 years. Well, think about having an event. Let's say you hold an event at Bethpage Black, and it's the Americans, Texas, Sea Island, Scottsdale versus Ireland. Here comes Rory McIlroy and Sean. Take the best players from those countries like we do at the Ryder Cup and do it 14 times a year. How about that Australian team? Show up to play the Australian team in Australia, Ireland. You want to see the fan base, because it would not make the Ryder Cup irrelevant, because the Ryder Cup's always going to be the Ryder Cup. But it would be a chance to each country to show up, because it used to be the Ryder Cup was just against Europe or against Great Britain. There wasn't enough competition back then. So they said, we'll add more people. Well, now there's enough competition for every country to have a team. And then people go, well, these guys would have to play too much golf. And I said, wait a minute. There could be more than 4 players on each team. You could have 8 players from Ireland on the team. And they don't, just like any other sport, they don't play every match. That would have grown the game. That would have taken stuff to South Korea coming in. The TV product would have been off the charts. Who would not be wearing, if you're from Ireland, would not be wearing their merchandise? Now, the naming, the Majestics and the whatever, I just don't think it's going to work. I mean, the Braves work and the Mets work, but I think it needed to be a more national type situation. Now, the Australian team is Australian. And if you go to the event, they eat dinner together, they practice together, they're having so much fun. They all eat together. It's a wonderful product. It really is. Does it replace the PGA Tour? No, it's different. The Savannah Bananas does not replace the Atlanta Braves. It's a different product. But guess what it does? Someone that goes and sees anything in golf, enjoys it, grows the game. And that's where all this went wrong, is what growing the game makes everyone's life better, right? So the do-over, take the meeting several years ago. Don't look at it like this is an attack on our business. Look at it as what can they offer us? You imagine if they came in with the billions of dollars that they have, put it into the hands of the PGA Tour, and then through their contacts went around the world and grew the game. Now, I don't know if we can get the toothpaste back in the tube. I've had players tell me, well, Bryson DeChambeau wants to come play on my event. He's going to have to pay a penalty. And I'm like, wait a minute. If he plays in your event, the event's better. I said, and I told a guy, I said, you probably got a better chance of having to pay Bryson DeChambeau an appearance fee to play in your tournament than you do him having to pay a penalty, because you don't remember your product now, PGA Tour, is a for-profit. So why would someone pay a penalty to come help your product better? It's been mindless as far as I'm concerned. And maybe they've been meeting a lot. I know Jay was over, and I think he's been over in Saudi Arabia last week, and I hear things are moving along. But how do you get the public to say, hey, I know we said this is blood money, but we're going to take it now because we're for profit, and I still want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to step in. Someone is going to have to step in and save this game. I don't know how it works. If it's the Augusta National, I told somebody one time, you think money matters? Augusta National could say, hey, there's no prize. There's no purse. All you're playing for is a green jacket. Everyone shows up.
You bet.
That's legacy. So, and the other thing, are any of my players worried about how much money they're making? I never hear it. These guys will all tell you, I make more money I could ever dream of playing golf. Like, they're not in there going, give me more money. I've had a client, look, they want to make more, but what are they going to do with it? I mean, fly a bigger jet. I mean, and they play 25 weeks a year? I mean, there's caddies making millions of dollars now, and they're working 25 weeks a year. I missed my call, and I could have caddied, because I do about the same job. So yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know where it all went wrong, where nobody said, let's look at this in a more macro way. Maybe this isn't an attack on us. Maybe this is an opportunity to really grow the game. I just think, again, I'll go back, success created so many blind spots within the PGA Tour headquarters is they didn't know how to react. And now their reaction, no matter what they do now, they're kind of trapped either way. They've mined their regress. Now that they take the money from over there, they've got to answer the questions, why you and not them? How could you be so mad at Brooks Koepka taking money from them and now you're taking it? Where is your rights different than them? So I don't know. And it's like I say, can we get the toothpaste back in the tube? Because there's a lot of people to this day that tell me if they do a deal with PIF, they'll never watch PGA Tour again. Had that said to me. And I'm like, I don't think, America's an incredible country, but I don't think we're like sinless in life. We've probably done some things as bad as every other country. I just think, I always tell people, Japan bombed us in 1941. Okay. And we have Toyotas and we have Sony TVs, and time passes and things change. And I always tell people, and I'm not going to get in religion, but, forgiveness and had we turned our cheek in 9/11 and said, you know what, we're going to strengthen our borders. We're going to not let this happen. But to just go create more terrorists against us. Again, I'm not going to get into all that, but this is what I'm saying is, where did you get to the point that where another golf league would cause you to react to a point before you hurt yourself? Right? I mean, it wouldn't make, I haven't talked to any businessman that says this is the thing to do. And the funny thing about all this, and this is so here's the tour, and now they got $1.5 billion in investment. And now let's go say they do a deal with LIV and they get all this money. Who says another tour doesn't show up? There's demand. Any business that there's demand in. So I look at it as like, what happens if another competitor shows up with another tour? What do you do now? I mean, I don't know. So it's one of those things that, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm going on based on my experience in the game and watching players, is that it seemed to me the PGA Tour was more worried about keeping their jobs than growing the game.
I can't recap everything we've just done, but the concept of team golf has not, the way LIV is doing it, I just never understood it. I don't know what they're doing, but the idea of doing it regionally, like, you said the Braves and the Mets, that's fine, but they're not the Coca-Cola Braves.
Yep.
Right? And they're not the New York Life Mets.
Correct.
They're regional. So right. a team for each country makes so much more sense. And then in the United States, California, Texas, New York, Arizona, yes, you have those teams, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, as you were clearly explaining here, it's a merchandise
heaven
bonanza.
Oh.
And that's the whole point. I mean, why did college football, West Coast teams, the Pac-12 broke up? Because they were looking to generate more revenue. Okay, I can accept that.
Right.
You could, and most people can accept, yeah, they want to make more money, but when someone throws money at it, they're against it. It really is mind-blowing, but they did it wrong. They did it wrong.
We talked about in business schools for so long. And again, I'm not trying to be. Look, I'm just stating the truth. It's wrong. They did it the wrong way. And if anybody wants to call me and say, "Hey, let me show you what we did right," I'll tell you. But I've got tour players that I represent that have less opportunities to earn a living now on the PGA Tour, which they're members of. And so, how can you tell me that you're not serving your membership by taking away opportunities and that it's going to make it a better product? And then they tell you they're doing this because of the pace of play. And I go, wait a minute, you have rules against that. But you know what? I don't know how many people have ever been fined, but you fine a guy, here he's coming down the stretch and he's slower and he's getting ready to win $2 million if he wins, and you're going to fine him $10,000. You think he cares? He's going to get that fine a week later. Right. So now, the new product in golf is going to have to get faster. It's going to have to be more palatable to watch. You're going to have to see more golf. And I don't know how they can get that. And again, look, I got to tell you something. The PGA Tour, when COVID hit, they did one of the best jobs in the history of anybody. They got those guys back out there playing. It was an amazing thing. I mean, Jay Monahan got that COVID hit. I mean, we're all out of work. I mean, we're sitting here like everybody. Now they got guys. We had testing. We were back playing golf so fast, which was great for people playing golf. And you would think, man, they've got it. This is so incredible that they could pull that off. And probably one of the best things that's ever happened in business, followed up, but probably the worst thing that's ever happened in business. And there's nothing you can do to deny it. And people ask me what should happen. I said, well, they should just come out and say, hey guys, everybody, we made mistakes. Let me show you what we did wrong. We should have took the meeting. We shouldn't have been so vile. We shouldn't have attacked them. We shouldn't have done these things. And we want your forgiveness. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start over. Members of the PGA Tour, we're going to do everything we can to create as many opportunities for you to play as possible. So as much money as possible, but not more money than possible. And that's where, if I go back to if I was running the tour, first thing I do is say, okay, let's show you where we messed up. Okay, we're going to back up, try to get the public to understand what we did wrong. Do not tear up Saudi Arabia because that's where the money came from. When you've got how much money FedEx, which is the PGA Tour's biggest sponsor, how much business they do in Saudi Arabia. I just every time I look around, I'm like, do you think this is not a global economy? And I know you don't want, we want to judge where money comes from and all this stuff, but that was nothing to do about where it was really coming from. That was just an attack point. They just were pulling things out the bag. How can we make them look worse? How can we destroy their product? We will not let them have more ranking points. We will do this. I mean, that's not good business. It's not good business. Now, maybe it works in the steel industry, or maybe it works if you're the mob, but it doesn't work in business. And now when your customer is the U.S. public or the world public, everything you did should have been looked at. How does it affect them? And if it was such a bad product, as they said, it never works, and team golf doesn't work. And if it was such a bad product, then why did you compete with them? Let them go. And now we've got this new thing, the Tomorrow's Golf League. I don't know if you know about what that is. Do you know about
TGL?
It's
I haven't really dug into it.
It's the Atlanta Drive. My Lucas Glover, my client Lucas Glover, is on the Atlanta Drive, owned by Arthur Blank, who owns the Atlanta Falcons. There you go, Atlanta Drive. You should see the swag. It's cool. They're going to play indoor-outdoor golf at a stadium on Monday and Tuesday nights in the winter. Tiger Woods is involved. Rory's involved. I think it's an awesome concept. I think it's going to be fun. But if team golf doesn't work, then why are we doing team golf? Like Lucas is on a team with Billy Horschel and Justin Thomas. So none of it makes sense to me. I think team golf is the most wonderful thing in the world. And they came out and said team golf doesn't work and it's only 3 rounds. You can't define a champion in 3 rounds. I said, college golf is a team sport that's been playing 3 rounds for history. So
amateur golf, yeah.
And so where is it going to go? I really don't know. I think there is going to be an agreement between the two, but is it still a great product, or have they just survived? And their membership, who they work for, taking opportunities from these guys, for 30, 40 years on Wednesday for free. Players playing pro-ams 4 or 5 hours of their day, every day, right before they go compete. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tiger, Phil, Davis, they've been playing in pro-ams, building the brand of the PGA Tour for them. And they just turn around and go like, well, we messed up. We're for profit. I mean, there have been individuals that have saved PGA Tour events with their own money. But I won't go into it, but they have. So here they are. They put their own money to save this tournament for this community. So it gives so much back to the community in charitable dollars. I'm going to save it myself. And they've turned around now and tell these people, hey, if you want us to have an event, you're going to have to pay us $500,000. You're going to have to pay us $1 million plus 2% of your gate so that we're going to make money. And I'm like, I look at it and go like, they take long-term sponsors and say, look, if you don't give us more money, you can't play. I mean, long-term sponsors. I mean, there's something about people. They've lost sponsors like Honda, Wells Fargo. So again, everything they've done, if it's the right thing, then it's going to be something that's 10 years from now, we'll go, well, look what they did. It was right. But I don't see how taking your membership that have given so much to build your brand and taking opportunity away from them is going to work.
I'm curious, of the stable of players that you represent, professional golfers, how many of them have either considered or have gone over to LIV?
I actually had no players consider going.
Even consider it? You didn't have any discussions with any of them?
Oh, I asked them all. No. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tell me, where do you fit in that? I'm sure that you're the person that go, I need to think about this. They're offering me a lot of money and boy, I'm really thinking about it. They would come to you for that conversation, I would think, and their spouse. But, as their business partner, because they're the CEO of their company, right? And you're the COO of the company. Right. How do you present this or hold them back, or where do you get involved? I'm fascinated by this.
Obviously they made requests for players I represented to talk to them.
Okay. And
I didn't say, well, how much do you have? I said, I'm not negotiating until I know he wants to do it. I don't do that. I don't want this. So I went to the players and, my last player went, no, I'm good. I'm fine. Just wasn't any reasoning. They liked the PGA Tour. They didn't care about, I played for enough money. I'm fine. Now on the context, so when the LIV was kicking off, they were a little short of players. And I had a kid named Andy Ogletree who had won the U.S. Amateur in 2019. He caught the COVID year Masters, so he didn't get to play in the April Masters. But guess who he got to play with? Tiger Woods. So he waited as an amateur till November so he could play with Tiger Woods in the Masters. He was low amateur, which was wonderful. Turns pro the next week, plays in Mexico, which is the last event of the year on tour. He got to play one event, played well. We go through Christmas. He plays He's starting to play, shows up in LA with a sponsor exemption, tears his labrum, has a 5-something tear in his labrum. We fly him immediately home to Andrews and Birmingham. Surgery, out 6 months. Okay. It's pretty tough on a kid. Yeah. So as he's rehabbing and coming out, this kid's really good. These kids are not rich people, right? And he got an opportunity. I reached out and we got an opportunity to get him to the first LIV event in London. One event. In exchange for Asian tour status, because he didn't have anywhere to play. And he goes, I'm in. Last place was $125,000. That will go a long way to helping him get back on his career. He plays, he's rehabbing, didn't play great, finished close to last. People, blah, 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 blah. The tour banned him. Wasn't even a member of the tour. Never let him go to Q school again. Never let him do anything. Blocked him from creating a living for playing one event. Okay. And I have a couple of retired general friends. So before Andy made a decision to do this, I got in touch with one of them because I knew they had ties to Saudi Arabia. And I wanted to know, am I okay with this? This is going to come back and get me. And that one of them said, we're married to Saudi Arabia. We're not just allies. And I called Andy and said, Andy, the research I have, the best I can tell you, you're good to go do this. Well, he was going anyhow. He said, I don't care. And then this is great. Andy, because the tour put him on the list of banned players, like he was one of theirs, he lost deals. Now, I'm going to share something. When LIV found out about that, they gave Andy money to put LIV on his shirt so he'd have more money to go play golf. And he went to Asia. He won 3 times. He won the Order of Merit, which got him a spot on LIV. He earned his way on, and we signed a team deal, and he plays for Phil Mickelson's team, the High Flyers. And if you call him and you want to ask how bad it is, you know what he gets to do every day? He gets to hang out with Phil Mickelson, one of the best players ever played, helping him with his swing, helping him with his game. And Cam Tringali and Brendan Steele, his teammates, they hang out together. They work with each other. Andy's getting better just because of having these peers all of a sudden. So it's been the most wonderful opportunities. If you want to grow the game, you took a kid that was pretty at a low point in his life. And through his play, he played in the British Open last year. He played in the PGA last year. So for LIV, you say they didn't do anything good. Well, that kid right there, it changed his life. So, but yeah, I didn't have a player get signed a check to go. I don't know why. I mean, in our business, it's cyclical. Like I'd have 2 of the players in the top 10, and that makes me really good. I'm a really important guy. I don't have a player in the top 10 now. I'm dumb now. I'm not good at what I do. And now whatever agent's got a great player, and now they're the smart one. So, and that's the way that works. It's okay. It's called position power, not personal power. So I didn't really have a lot of guys that they were really wanting, but I did have a couple. And they just said that, like I said, my guys were like, man, I'm playing for a lot of money. I don't care. I'm having a ball. They great family life. They weren't saying, please, I need more money. I mean, you got guys making $2 or $3 million a year, working 25 weeks a year. I mean, that's dang good fun. And they're playing golf. So how does it work? I mean, obviously what LIV did was contact agents like me, every one of them. They got Brooks's agent or whoever and said, here's an offer. And so I just went back. I didn't want to have an offer, negotiate, and then go see the player. I just thought that wasn't fair to LIV. And so I just went and said, if they don't have any interest, I call them, hey, thank you, but no thanks. And the guys that did,
is it? What is it that keeps your players to going, yeah, I'm good. I don't need, I'm fine staying with the PGA.
I imagine, a lot of my players are from the Southeast. Mm-hmm. And maybe a little different psychological, but they're making a lot of money, and they were happy. The tour's fun. It's a great place. They were not unhappy.
And you can't win majors unless you're playing on the PGA Tour.
Well, and see, yeah.
Is that relevant?
Yeah, it's somewhat relevant, but not totally. I mean, you can earn your way into the British Open and the US Open. Anybody can qualify for it. Lucas Glover won the U.S. Open in 2009. He had to qualify on a Monday. He didn't get in because of the PGA Tour. He went qualified and won it himself. And again, that's the whole thing is that, legacies are created by the majors. Financial security is created by wherever you play. And I think that my guys, just the lifestyle, they enjoy it. They're home. Look, traveling in America is much different than having to go to Singapore, to Hong Kong, to Malaysia, or whatever, right? So, but if you can argue about a person that would take money for a sport that he has made himself to the point to demand the dollars, and then they do it and they say, well, they're not going to be as good. They did everything you could to make it. It's horse. Aaron Judd dropped the foul ball. I don't know how much he makes, but he makes a lot. You still make mistakes even though you get paid a lot of money. So now they're saying these guys are not as good because they're not playing against competition. It was just, they were throwing everything they had out of the kitchen sink at this thing, trying to make it not be anything. And then when none of that worked, they go, okay, we'll partner with you. It's ridiculous. Never seen that like it.
Wow. This could possibly be the longest episode I've ever done, but I've never been so captivated. Yeah, I have, but I am so captivated by where you've been, what you've seen, what you've done, and I hope that I can call you back and bring you back on the show because
anytime.
This has been absolutely fascinating, Matt.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me talk.
Well, thank you for joining us, and best of luck. We'll keep our eyes open, and if something weird happens, I'm calling you.
Some weird stuff's going to happen. I'll guarantee you in the next few months. Thanks for letting me come on back.
I would love to get your feedback on this episode, as he was about as controversial and thought-provoking as any guest I've ever had. Do you agree with his thoughts on what's happening on the tour? Did he influence any of your feelings towards LIV? I know a lot of people who are like, I won't even look at a Bryson DeChambeau video because he's on LIV. Let's play nice, okay? And now he's well aware that he said some things that may not make people at the PGA Tour headquarters happy. And during one of our commercial breaks, he said this to me.
Well, we'll know if Jay Monahan watches this because he won't. He'll call me immediately. If you want to send it to him, do it. He's not happy with me right now.
Oh, boy. So please, share your thoughts with me. And keep an eye open at Golf Smarter on social media for many clips from this episode. And there'll be video clips. So after our recording, we spoke for another hour and a half. It was kind of like living in a TED Talk. Hopefully he will be back often. Interestingly, this Friday on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we're going to feature the first of two 2013 conversations with one of the few PGA Tour players ever featured on our podcast, Matt Every. When was the last time you heard from him, right? He was a highly decorated college player and showed tons of promise on the tour. But now, where is he? I want to thank this week's Golf Smarter ambassador, Gerard Dalemans from Bowie, Maryland, who received all 3 gifts for introducing today's episode. There's currently a way for you to get all our gifts at once just by writing an honest review where you listen to Golf Smarter and sending me what you wrote and where you posted it. I've read a couple of new reviews on Apple Podcasts this week, which were incredibly kind, thank you, but I don't know who wrote them. So please, if you did, or if you're going to, email me and let me know what you said so that I can track you down and then send you your thank you gifts. Or if you'd like, you can still be a Golf Smarter ambassador by introducing an upcoming episode, and we'll get a gift to you there too. Okay, I am ready to invite you to our next Golf Smarter adventure. I'm going to bring Tara and Alan from TMI Golf on soon for a short episode to discuss all the details. But the webpage is now available to reserve your spot, which is limited. Here are some details. We're going to do this on March 26th through the 30th. That's a long weekend starting on Wednesday going through Sunday with 3 rounds of golf on the Robert Trent Jones Trail near Birmingham, Alabama. We'll play golf on Thursday at Oxmoor Valley Ridge Course, Friday at the Ross Bridge Golf Course, and Saturday's round will be at Oxmoor Valley's Valley Course. Again, space is limited, but you can reserve your spot now at tmigolf.com/golfsmarter. There's so much to share about this, and I'll continue to tell you about the details as we get closer. But I'd love to play with you as we get our first taste of the legendary Robert Trent Jones Trail. Again, March 26th through the 30th, 2025. Check your calendar right now. You should be available, and you'll definitely want to join us. We're not going overseas. We're going to keep it as simple as we can, but we're going to play the Robert Trent Jones Trail. I've been wanting to do this for years. Get all the details at tmigolf.com/golfsmarter, and I'll leave that link in today's show notes. If you have any questions, comments, you'd like to be on a future episode with where you're from, where you play, and the episode number, or maybe you've submitted a review on your favorite golf podcast platform, or have a suggestion for an upcoming